how do you differentiate between ADHD and depression? The thing is, ADHD is this condition where your brain is always buzzing. And even if you're not physically running around from one thing to the next, your brain is doing that. So it's very hard for you to focus on one thing and not be able to do other things, or at least keep jumping from one thing to the next, until and unless you have something which gives you that dopamine hit, in which case you get stuck to it and then you can't let go. Like, for example, I do map editing for Waze, right? And I find one of those, or music production or editing in music. And I find that when I get into these activities, I cannot remove my attention from them. This is called hyperfocus. And the only thing that will really get me to stop doing these things is if I desperately need to go to the loo, or I'm starving and I need to order something, but then I always think, oh, no, 5 seconds more, 5 seconds more, 5 seconds more. Depression, on the other hand, is the condition where your dopamine levels are also, or your serotonin levels are also not optimal in your brain. And that slows down your reaction times. It slows down your response to emotions and connection. It has this way of removing motivation and removing the purpose that you see in things. It makes you go numb. So depression is this condition where you don't see even a point of getting out of bed in the morning. Depression is comorbid with ADHD very often, because when you are in that mindset that you can't settle down and you're not being able to focus on things, and you start thinking that there's something wrong with you and that why am I going through all of this nonsense, it just becomes very frustrating. And this causes extreme self-esteem issues, because especially in school, when you're going through these things and your teachers keep telling you that you have so much potential, but you're not realizing it. You have so much potential, but you're not asserting it. You're not applying yourself to your topics, to your subjects, to your studying. And that is a huge burden for a child to carry, especially when you don't know what's going on and you don't know what's wrong with you, which is what happened to me for many years. And then they have become comorbid. So if my ADHD is increasing, my depression will increase. If my depression is increasing, my ADHD will increase. And they flow together in this perspective. But depression on its own is a connected but distinctly different condition, which is more treated by, say, SSRIs. Now, we don't know exactly how SSRIs, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, we don't really know why they help with depression. Because what happens is, if you have a synapse between two neurons, which is where one neuron is passing on information through serotonin and dopamine to the other neuron through the synapse. If there's serotonin excreted here, and it stays in the synapse until it's absorbed into the next neuron. Now, if it doesn't get absorbed in the next neuron, it gets reabsorbed back into the first one. So what SSRIs do is it prevents the initial neuron from reabsorbing it, so that it stays in the synapse longer and it gets absorbed into the next neuron regardless. And this usually helps with getting the symptoms of depression down. And with depression, that motivation to be able to do anything, to get anything done, is extremely suppressed. We've all had low days, right? We've all had bad days when you just don't want to do anything. We just want to sit in front of the TV and watch some random nonsense and just get on with the day and hope till that the day gets over and you're going to start again the next day. Imagine that for 2 years at a time, where every day is like that. That's depression, right? That is not something that anybody would want to experience. And it's extremely hard to climb your way out of it, or even see that you're in that place. There have been many days that, many times that I've gone through 3 or 4 months of depression. And only when I start getting better, I look back at the last 3 months, I'm like, God, I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything worthwhile with the last 3 months of my life. And I'm like, oh, wait, I think that must have been because I was depressed. And then when you start climbing out of it, then it helps.
Hey guys, I was just editing the video and I thought I'd just hop in and give you a little bit of an update of my life and the channel. The last couple of months, I've been going through exactly this, depression. But I'm doing a lot better now. I've come away on a holiday and I'm already feeling better. So thanks for sticking around, man. It's really good to have you on board and watching this content. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you stick around and subscribe if you haven't already, because that really helps me out and that gives me a lot more confidence. It fights away the imposter syndrome and just shows that the work I'm doing is making a bit of a difference. I really appreciate it. And on the other hand, also, if you could, I would really appreciate it if you could join the channel. This channel has now become joinable. You can not only subscribe, but you can join the channel and support it in that way. I've got a couple of tiers. If there's a different type of tier you want, if there are different perks that you want, just let me know. I'll do my best to get them to you so that we can work together and make this channel a success so that we can have more reasonable and rational conversations around mental health in general and a whole bunch of other topics like what we talk about on this channel. Also, one quick thing. Tell me the kind of content you most like to watch on Rationable, or the kind of content or rather science communication that you are most interested in. What are the topics that you are really interested in and want to know more about? I want to be able to get that to you in the coming year. Anyway, please join the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get back into the video.
So how do you tackle depression? There are antidepressants, which can be only prescribed by a qualified psychiatrist. And you should also go through therapy for understanding that and addressing it and getting basically is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called CBT, is the process of understanding your behavior or lack thereof. What thoughts or what emotions are causing that behavior, and what are the thoughts that are causing those emotions. So it's a little bit of a triangle, and these are all interconnected. So when you're in an experience, like if you are not getting out of bed, if you are spontaneously crying in the middle of the day for no reason, then, or howling in front of one of these romantic movies or something of that sort, then you need to catch yourself and say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. What are the emotions that have led to this? And what thoughts have caused those emotions? So you have to train yourself to be able to go back, address the root cause of those behaviors, and then address them. That is cognitive behavioral therapy in a nutshell, and it is extremely effective. It has been very well studied. It is very effective in a number of different conditions when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to depression, when it comes to bipolar. There are a variety of different things that this can be applied to, and it really helps. Obviously, when you've got anxiety, then you've got a lot of adrenaline. You can have panic attacks, which can be extremely hard on the body and the mind. There's autistic spectrum disorder, which also has that possibility of being associated with ADHD. So, of course, if you don't know what autism is, this affects your social interactions, your communication skills, interests and behavior, and basically how your brain develops. Conduct disorder, which has a tendency towards antisocial behavior like stealing, fighting, vandalism, or harming people and animals. Yeah, that apparently is also a thing. Dyspraxia, which is a condition that affects your physical coordination. Epilepsy, which causes your brain to have fits or seizures. Tourette's syndrome is also associated with it, which is a condition of the nervous system where you start making involuntary noises, which basically present as tics, and you have certain movements and twitches, and also learning disabilities like dyslexia. So these are all things that have to happen. That also are associated with ADHD. And for the symptoms in adults, like we are, I assume, carelessness, lack of attention to detail, happens to me all the time. I wish I had attention to detail, but I don't. Continually starting new tasks before finishing old ones happens to me every single day. Poor organizational skills, tell me about it. Inability to focus or prioritize, as I said before. Continually losing or misplacing things, again, happens to me all the time. Forgetfulness, restlessness, and edginess. Difficulty keeping quiet, speaking out of turn, blurting out responses, and often interrupting others. Having mood swings, irritability, quick temper, which I don't have. Thank jobs. Inability to deal with stress, extreme impatience, and taking risks in activities, often with little or no regard for personal safety or the safety of others. You can work with a therapist to figure out ways to address this condition by focusing on structuring your day, making to-do lists, having at least starting with one or two things that you really want to get done, and just then build up from there little by little. So I'm in the process of actually getting to that place. And in a related flow, yes, it is extreme that it can get very lonely for people with ADHD, because a lot of the hyperactivity people who, what was I saying? See, this is what happens. Live experience of ADHD. But so a lot of people who are hyperactive also have this impulsive way of interrupting people and saying things in the middle of it and blurting things out. And they also can have extreme anger issues because they're not able to control their emotions, because everything is happening now and it has to be addressed. Otherwise, I'll forget it. So therefore, blah, blah, blah. There is a large tendency of such people getting secluded because other kids don't want to hang out with them that much because they're just too intense. And I have had that thing because I'm otherwise a very creative person. So I've really sucked at a lot of topics, a lot of subjects in school. And I was also the weird one out because I'd be sitting in class and instead of paying attention to the topic, I'd be reading a sci-fi book under the desk. And yeah, I was that guy. So it was pretty lonely for me. And it is the same for a lot of ADHD, people with ADHD. So right now I'm reading this audiobook by Russell Barkley, who is a researcher and an ADHD specialist, and it is fantastic. It is called Taking Charge of Adult ADHD, second edition, Russell A. Barkley, PhD. It is a fantastic book. Get into it, read it. If you think that you might have ADHD, go consult a psychiatrist, discuss it with them. It takes a questionnaire and a conversation to be able to really understand what's been going on, why you feel like you probably have it, and just take it from there. Honestly, my first psychiatrist, he didn't think I had ADHD at all. I said, "Do you think I have it?" He said, "Nope." And that was the end of that. And he was evidently wrong because I do. So, yeah, medical science, as far as at least mental health networks in this country, are absolutely obnoxiously horrible. And even though he's a very prominent doctor, he did get this wrong. Doctors are humans, they can get things wrong every now and then. Maybe go to 2, 3 different doctors, go for the consensus, and you can take it from there and just learn how to cope with it. Trust me, it will work. Yes, I have an ADHD therapist, and we are also working through it, and it really helps. It's not an excuse for the behavior that I've had. It's not an excuse for the horrible marks I've gotten all the way through my academics, but it is an explanation. And that is a big deal. Like, it has changed my life to be aware that I have ADHD, and now I can really get into it and address these things. Do you get excited to know other ADHDers? Absolutely. In fact, the first time I thought I might have ADHD is when I was talking to Jessica from How to ADHD, the YouTube channel. She's fantastic, by the way. I met her at this science communication camp that was happening in LA in 2018. And when I was talking with her, I was like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like me. That's what ADHD is. That sounds like me. That's why I'd gone to the psychiatrist and said, what do you think? And he said no. And then I was like really puzzled. And I had to stop watching her videos because every time I watched her videos, I was like, if I'm not if I don't have ADHD, why do I always connect with what she's talking about? But now that I've realized that and I've connected with that, I have a very close friend of mine who also has ADHD. So we're always bonding on that. It is such a relief to know others who are also going through the same thing. And once that happens, you don't feel so lonely anymore. So it's all right. If you understand yourself better and you understand other people with ADHD better, and you're like, oh, that's the explanation. It's just as simple as that. It's really liberating to know this, to get to understand this part. And in this book I mentioned, right, Russell Barkley's book, one of the things he mentions is that a lot of people who have changed the world, literally, including Einstein, probably had ADHD. Can you
Yeah,
believe that?
a lot of historical figures probably did, but it's can't diagnose them right now. But yeah, probably a
Probably
lot of
did.
the radical thinkers and people who brought about a lot of change probably did have ADHD.
Exactly. And I'm going to quickly Google up and see how many celebrities have ADHD. I am not useless in life. Okay, my room will still be an absolute mess, though. I don't care. Oh, Adam
Mm.
Levine. All right. Michael Phelps. Justin
Yep.
Timberlake. Howie Mandel. Okay, I don't know Howie Mandel that much. I've only seen him on those celebrity talk shows. No,
Yeah, American Idol or something.
Paris Hilton. Okay. Don't know what to think about that. All right. I'm going to. Jim Carrey. That explains a
Yeah,
lot.
Jim Carrey is another famous.
Will Smith also explains the slap. Lack of
Yeah.
executive function. I should not be doing this. I should not be doing this. Whack. I totally get it. Zoe Deschanel, I had such a bad
Yeah,
kind of.
we're in good company for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is amazing. Michael Jordan, Woody Harrelson, and Sporty Spice. There you go.
Quickly about the firm that somebody told me that I could be ADHD was my first girlfriend. And that time, this was when I was 20 years old or 19 years old. And I didn't work out. And she was like, dude, I think you're ADHD. Better go get yourself checked up or something. Like, didn't take it very seriously at that time. And
Okay.
following relationships, I started in the same pattern. I get so into the relationship in the beginning, and then after a while, I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's done. Let me move on to other stuff. So that kept
Yeah.
happening. And this happened in a very serious relationship as well, which then prompted me to go get myself diagnosed. And I got diagnosed in 2014. This was when I was living in Dubai before I moved back to India a couple of years back. Yeah, it's been difficult because there are a lot of comorbidities that come along, like depression, anxiety, and RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Yeah, just dealing with a lot of stuff that comes free with ADHD.
Yeah.
Those are the challenging bits. Even if you try to manage your ADHD, these things that have just come in with that is the most difficult part to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things. It affects so many aspects of our lives. I didn't even know that this was a part of my relationship history. I was like, whoa, I see a pattern.
Yeah, my first marriage also went down the drain because of unmanaged ADHD, basically. So it's if only I knew about this and I had started work, I would have started working on it. Things would have been a lot different. It's just more difficult as you get older to deal with it and fix all the things. I know it's no point living in the past and thinking, oh, if I knew this earlier, I would have managed it better or changed my life, stuff like that. But that's no point. We are here now, and what we do now is what we should always keep focusing on.
Exactly. But also, if we don't learn from the past, we are doomed to repeat it. That's the thing. That comes with ADHD as well. So now I'm looking back at previous jobs, previous relationships, previous a whole bunch of aspects, like a little bit everywhere. But the cool thing is that as adults, we've also learned to either hide some of these, which is apparently called masking, and also cope with some of these to at least let them have a more minimal effect on our lives and our jobs and everything else, every other aspect of our lives. But it's always a toss up, because if you don't know what you're doing, if you win some, you lose some. And it is absolutely essential that we as a country really start dealing with mental health issues and coping with that better. And I've worked with a friend of mine recently. We wrote a book together about adolescent mental health issues, and we've released it, and I think I've posted about it. So if you're on my broadcast list on WhatsApp, you probably know what I'm talking about. So Nana Srivastava, her husband, and we got together, and her sister as well. Kind of team effort here. So we've written a book called In Your Corner, which is on Amazon. We self-published it, but it's 10 fictional short stories about young adolescents who are going through a mental health crisis. And so it's their story, and it's bookended on either side with information basically about mental health issues, especially in the context of India, and what it's like to experience these mental health concerns and disorders. And at the end of every story, we put a little what we can learn from the story and how the characters could have behaved differently, or who behaved the correct way in different situations, as well as an entire description of specifically that disorder and what it entails, what are the signs that you can use to spot it, and what you can do as a parent or a caretaker or a guardian or a teacher do about it to help that person deal with these mental health problems. I will put that link in here. Let me get that on In Your Corner. And I would really greatly appreciate it. I would really appreciate it if you guys popped in here and either buy the book, share it with friends and families who might have or know adolescents who might be going through something serious. Not every adolescent is going to go through this, but I think we've done a good job. I'm very proud of the work that I've done. So I would love for you to share it around and get people to get the book, give it a read, give me feedback if you read it. I would really appreciate it. That'd be fantastic. And that is one of the biggest things I've done this year, actually. That is the class for today.